so much, everyone, for joining us this morning. It is so amazing to see you all, especially because I know where several of you are calling in from. Although, Pablo, I see you, and I don't think you're in Japan right now. I think you're in Vietnam. But a shout out to several people here in Asia, where it is the middle of the night. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Isabel and the whole Gap Year crew. If you really knew me, you would know I love the Gap Year crew. As Kibna says, they have been such a bright light for us at the Mosaic Project this past year. For me personally, it has really been a year, and they give me so much hope and remind me of what's possible. I love you. Something else also gives me hope. As you're about to hear, Mosaic has a long history, and I've been doing this work for even longer. And never in all of these years have I seen the openness that I see now to having deep conversations about racial justice. And never have I seen this desire to learn and take action like I see now. This is a pivotal time in so many ways. And as you'll see this morning, it's a pivotal time for the Mosaic Project as well. But before we get to that, I want to tell you about how Mosaic got started. Some of you know this already, but hopefully there'll be a little extra information for you here too. Mosaic really began, the idea began when I was about 15 years old, and I attended a week-long summer camp that brought together students of different backgrounds, specifically to address prejudice and discrimination. And I already went to an intentionally diverse school, the first magnet school in LA. And yet, this was the first time that I talked about these issues outside of my Jewish community. And it was an amazingly powerful experience for me. And also the fear, defensiveness, and already deeply entrenched prejudice that I observed convinced me that waiting until high school to address these issues of difference is waiting far too long. And I decided then that I would one day do this work with younger students and do it in an imaginative and loving way. And it was only later as a student at Stanford that I learned that the research shows that we start to exhibit prejudice between 2.5 and 8 years old. And some studies now are saying even younger. So it really doesn't make sense to wait. And yet no one was doing this immersive work of bringing students together before they reached adolescence and until we came around. Also, while I was at Stanford, I had the opportunity to visit Germany with other Jewish students who had also lost family members in the Holocaust like I had. And side by side with German students, we met with former Nazis to discuss what happened. And that is when I really came to understand the self-perpetuating pyramid of violence. This idea that the fear that comes from separation and lack of understanding leads to the prejudice that can have deadly consequences. I had heard this before, but it was in Germany that I got it. And it seemed to me that this pyramid was at the root of many of the world's problems. And this is when I became even more committed to making this my life's work, to dismantle this pyramid, starting with the bottom level of separation, starting by just bringing people together. But the research shows that it is not enough just to bring people together from different backgrounds, but like we do, they have to be brought together for prolonged periods of time, be working on common goals, and address the prejudice and discrimination head on. We have to talk about it. We can't just put everybody together and say, play, and pretend it doesn't exist. We have to address it. And people have to have mentors of diverse backgrounds, modeling, building friendships across differences, and they have to be given conflict resolution skills. And that is the work of the Mosaic Project, to dismantle this pyramid of violence and to do it before all of this becomes entrenched. But we're not just trying to dismantle it. We are empowering our students with the skills to transform it into the pyramid of peace. So while separation is the foundation of violence, it follows that connection, as you can see here, is the foundation of peace. And sometimes we can even be separated from the person right next to us when we don't really know them, even if it isn't physical separation. Sometimes sitting at the next desk or next cubicle, if we don't really know people's story, it can cause a lot of misunderstanding. So we work really, really hard to build this connection constantly, and then we climb up this pyramid. While the songs that we write are a musical summary of our curriculum, these two pyramids side by side right here, you see the visual summary of our curriculum, which is the basis for all our programs, whether we're working with kindergartners or whether we're working with corporate executives in our consulting trainings, whether we have just a couple hours in a workshop or a whole week at the outdoor project. We're dismantling the pyramid of violence and we're building the pyramid of peace. But I skipped ahead a bit because several things happened after that trip to Germany, which also contributed to the creation of the Mosaic Project. And the most important is that shortly afterwards, I met my co-founder, Gogi Hodder, and this brunch today is dedicated to her. Gogi and I met at Stanford, working together to disrupt violence in another way, teaching women self-defense. And we had this experience together, teaching skills that we could see change people's lives in a very short time. And both of us knew that we wanted to continue to have that kind of impact. We were both committed to dismantling the pyramid of violence and building a pyramid of peace. And we also saw that we have complementary skill sets. And I remember we used to say that even then, we have complementary skill sets. We should do something together. And we were both realistic idealists or idealistic realists. Together, we could make stuff up and get it done. Gogi was the one who gave me the courage to create an organization. And while we didn't have a name for it, we knew right away when we met that we would found the Mosaic Project one day. After 10 years of very intentional hard work and planning, in the year 2000, we launched it. And 21 years later, I am committed to carrying on her legacy, and our work is a living altar to her. Gogi had the biggest heart that I know and a sharp, organized mind to match. And I used to tell her that I wasn't sure who was smarter, if it was Gogi because she was smart, or if I was the smarter one because I had chosen her to be my co-founder. I want to share her 3 6-word memoirs that evolved in her last months and days because they really do help capture the essence of Gogi. So first we had, I'm almost done with my list. Then we had, oh wait, there's one more thing. And finally, in her last week, it was, in the end, it's all love. Gogi was all love. And she taught me so much about enduring love over 30 years of friendship, about patience and forgiveness and love. She also taught me about peace and courage and connection. These are the 3 words that she chose to carry with her through her transition and to offer to her loved ones as well. Peace, courage, and connection. Connection, that foundation of the pyramid of peace, that foundation to really helping to change the world.